This conference will now be recorded.
So when we left, it was like.
I'm going to call council meeting to order. Hannah?
Mayor Johnson? Councilmember Kane is excused. Councilmember Mitchell?
Here.
Our Mayor Pro Tem Nowak?
Here.
And Councilmember Walczak is also excused.
And I will call the planning commission meeting to order and roll call, please.
Boyda, Peterson, Bobalts,
Here.
Van Wagner, Gilmore,
Here.
Moses,
Here.
Sundin,
Here.
Kostalik. I believe she was excused. And Kemp.
Here.
We'll rise for the flag.
To the flag
of the United States
of America
and
to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Like I was blocking the flag.
Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. We appreciate it. So the kind of order of presenters is listed on the document that you have in front of you. And just to remind everyone, we are going to stick to the items which on the summary pages were highlighted in yellow as new items. If there's anything additional that the group wants to add, they certainly can do that. If you have questions about any others that we haven't talked about, feel free to ask questions, but we'll highlight the ones that are new in yellow, and then we can have any additional conversation that we would like to be at. Okay. Any questions before we get started? Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Ann then to start with the downtown.
Okay, am I good just sitting here? Do you want me to go up? Okay, so I don't have any highlighted, but I will comment just on a few of the priorities for the DDA this year. They're a little bit different from normal years. So public art and placemaking, that amount for this year is $28,000 since we have a $14,000 grant from the Michigan Arts and Culture Council to match. The other large one is downtown facade grants. So we have a $400,000 grant from the Michigan Economic Development Corporation to re-grant out to projects. So I show that split between 2 years in addition to a $70,000 match that the DDA has to provide to those projects. And then we also added in a $10,000 per year allocation for our residential facade grant program that we will be rolling out this month. And that will be for properties in our new expanded area in our current DDA boundary. So those two are kind of the big ones. And then also streetscapes, we added in some extra funds to upgrade lighting throughout the downtown. With Shannon and Rachel, we've been talking about making the lighting more consistent and doing some type of cost share with the DDA to maybe upgrade the bulbs or the acorns around those. So those are kind of our new three for this year. They're a little bit higher than normal. I can answer any questions about anything else in there.
And I already know the answer to this question, but the $400,000 that you got with the $70,000 matches for the entire D.
Correct. Yep. So it's our entire district, and our first deadline is due tomorrow. So we'll start reviewing projects this month, and then we have another deadline in May, and then we need to commit those funds by October. So identify which projects will receive those funds. And we currently have applications from the new area and I'll say the existing, but our previous district as well. Yep.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah. The grant, that's for those first 2 years, you have 400,000. And you said a $75,000 or $70,000 match. That totals 490,000. So is it a 70,000 match or should it be a 90,000?
It is a 70,000 match, and then there's an additional 10,000 per year for the residential program.
Okay.
So that's a separate program.
Okay.
Outside of that grant.
That's included in that.
Right.
5 each time. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, Ann. So moving on, I'll go next on the planning side. So if you have the summary in front of you, you're going to jump ahead to page 3. And the first one is the master plan update. So that update needs to be done every 5 years. We are looking at doing a more comprehensive review of the master plan update. My understanding is the last time it was done, it was a little bit more high level. So we just want to prepare for that. So we've budgeted enough, and we've put it over 2 fiscal years just because of the timing of when that would be due. The next one is a blight elimination fund. So this one is new, and last year and this year we had 2 projects that were house demolitions, and you don't necessarily know when those are going to come up, but it's nice to have funds budgeted so when they do come up, you have a place to pull those funds from. Also, with the addition of the county land bank, finding other ways to be able to partner with them and have funds available to move projects forward through that program is important. So we added funds there. The third new one is for the Historic District Study Committee. So that committee is becoming more active, and we requested $5,000 annually to be able to do projects and partner with the library and others to have some educational things going on, to do studies, so that we can continue to move forward with historic district opportunities. Now that we have the National Register listing going on, we want to make sure that we're not, that we want to basically come off of that with programming and other things that are happening. That's it, unless anyone has questions.
I just have a comment in general. I was going to say it earlier. It's not the easiest to go into the forms, the individual forms, because you got to find which section or fund and then scroll through. It used to be, I don't know why it isn't there now. We used to put these numbers that are 1 through like 200 on the page, in the lower part of the page of the individual. And it's not.
Just go to that page number in the PDF.
But
Just go to that page number in the PDF.
I know, because they don't match
They
this
do.
number, because there's other things in front of it. So the PDF goes from there, because like,
It matches right up. I did it several times
Well-
today.
I'm on Historic District 60, but I'm on page 74 of 292.
We can take a look at it later.
But that used to
That might be a
we used to put
combined-
that page
might have
number,
Some
right,
fine.
Okay,
or that project number, not,
we can take a look at that.
but I think it would be helpful to find something.
Yeah. It hasn't changed. None of that's changed. So yeah, we gotta figure that out then. You might have a combined file or something.
Well, there's a letter at the beginning, there's other stuff.
Yeah, that's why then. Yeah.
But I'm saying it makes it harder to
Yeah.
find it when there's no number at the bottom, because I could just go to that.
So backing up just 1 second, we did skip public comment. So I don't think there's any public in the room, but
But we do need to
we do need
acknowledge.
to ask, yeah.
Okay, great.
Thanks, Anna. Okay, any other questions before we move on? We'll jump to fire.
Really that we have, I don't think under the equipment fund, we don't have anything that is necessarily new. We just had some upgrades to it. So engine 123, which is 28 years old, we need to move that up in priority replacement. We're starting to have some major issues with that truck as well as the tower. Between those 2 projects, it's going to be about $3.3 million over the next 3 to 4 years. We're going to be looking for funding for. So we are going to be making a request to council for engine 123, which the cost of replacing a fire engine now has went up from about $400,000 to about $850,000 since COVID. So it's went up exorbitantly. And the build times on these are anywhere from 24 to 60 months. So we've got a 28-year-old truck that we might not see for 4 to 5 years. So ordering it early is really essential and key for us. So the engine itself is separate from the tower. We actually moved the tower up as well because it's 30 years old. We've been working with a vendor on that. If we buy both trucks, so at least order them similar times, there's a little bit of a price break on that. The tower itself, we actually have approached Senator Peters for some congressionally directed spending requests. We're trying to see if the federal government will help us fund that truck, which would be about $2.3 million. So that grant's due March 8th.
March, yeah, or
March.
12th, something like that.
Yeah.
But we'll be bringing that request to the March 4th meeting.
Mobile radios, the 800 megahertz mobile radios, we had to move that up and increase the cost. As of January 2025, our 800 megahertz radio systems in our vehicles and our portables are no longer going to be supported. So we basically have to overhaul our whole radio system, which is going to cost us about $130,000. We are requesting an assistance to firefighters grant through the federal government as well to help fund that project. If we're awarded that, that would obviously come out of CIP, as the grant would cover that. Another one that we have is engine 123 replacement upfitting. Depending on how the price of the engine and the tower comes in, this might get absorbed through the CIP request for the truck. Basically, all the equipment that's on those trucks right now have been there since I started, which is 28 years ago. We don't think it's fiscally responsible for us to just move equipment that is 30 years old onto a new truck. It's probably time to replace stuff on the vehicles. Fitness equipment, that's pretty much the same. We've kept the 5,000 in there for each year. That's to basically upgrade some of the equipment in the fitness room to keep our personnel in a little better shape. Same with the functional fitness equipment. That's just an ongoing project. It helps fund training props for the crews to train on and use within the station. And then we kept the shipping containers for firefighter training in there. We just moved it back a couple of years. We are trying to partner with ACC to do a joint effort on that, to have a live training center, not only for us, but for the area responders as well. And then Chief Hamp and I, the last one is emergency radio communication cleanup. Chief Hamp and I, our radio room at the public safety facility needs to basically be gutted and cleaned. It's going to cost about $22,000. So we looked at sharing that cost in a CIP project. So each department would be responsible for 11,000 of it for that to be cleaned up and overhauled. Questions?
Yes. On the mobile radios.
Yep.
At least on the CIP, it says for this year.
Correct.
130,000.
Correct.
Have we looked at the radios of like doing those and not all at once every time? So it's a huge, but they will replace so many this year, so many next year. You get on a rotating cycle, which reduces the impact on the budget every so many years of the whole amount.
We would love to, except for January 2025 is when they're not going to be supported anymore. So we basically have this calendar year, 2024, to get them replaced before they're no longer supported. That means they can't be repaired, they can't be reprogrammed. So,
well, I think once you get them, I think if you can schedule, it would certainly reduce the impact on the budget. When they
correct. So like this year, we had 14,000 that was in CIP for 800 radios. We're using all of that in a county matched grant. So we are replacing, I think it's 2 mobiles and 4 or 5 portables. So we have been trying to do that. It's just we can't do it fast enough. So, and we didn't know that they were gonna basically be phased out as of January 2025 until about 3 months ago. I think we had gotten an email from MPSC stating that they were gonna be phased out. So, yeah.
Also, just a general question on there's a lot of this equipment, the fire equipment, engine, fire engine, but also all the trucks for DPW, which you'll be getting into, all come out of the equipment fund.
Mhm.
How much money is in that fund?
It still has like $2 million in it.
Oh, so it has quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
And how is that replenished? Is it still where each department is charged a rental fee in essence?
And we have a couple snow plows coming out of that, but we don't want to completely drain it with the purchase of those apparatus. So we're trying to look for other funding sources.
Because I know when you add all those up with what's in like this year, a lot of money.
Yep.
It is, yeah. The fire department does also pay an annual rent because they don't really have a way they don't rent out their equipment. So we charge them an annual rent. It's probably $100 and some thousand, but usually it only covers their expenses that come out of the equipment fund on an annual basis. So
Thank you.
Should number 31 be moved up in rank? Should number 6 go before 5? It's just because it's sooner.
Oh, but the other ones,
Yeah, and then 2 should probably come down.
I don't know if we use that or not. Observation.
so put,
31 higher up.
Okay.
Priority.
yep.
We good?
Mhm.
All right. My first project is replacement of our primary and secondary weapons. Our primary weapons were purchased in 2006. Our backup weapons were purchased in 2012. Basically, due to the age of the weapons, increased features for accuracy, and failing night sights, we believe now is the time to upgrade. You can imagine there's been a lot of rounds put through those weapons, and our primary ones are now 18 years old. We're also looking to change from a 45 caliber ammunition to 9. Ammunition has been a problem for us to get. I think our last round of ammunition that we ordered, they were talking we weren't going to receive that for a year. 9 is much easier to get and less expensive as well. So we would like to replace both primary and secondary. If necessary, the project could be spread over a 2-year period with our primary weapons being first up for replacement. And that would also include trading in all of our primary and secondary weapons that we have right now. Typically, we would give the officer the opportunity to purchase their weapon back at the current trade-in value. But again, trading all of the weapons that we currently have in, and we make that purchase. Any questions on that one? Okay. The second one, Chief Edmonds already spoke about the radio cleanup project. Just the bottom line is there's been a lot of patches and things that have been done to our radio room through the years from our predecessors. And frankly, there's not a lot of folks in the building that know, and Logan from IT knows this as well. It's kind of a scramble when things go wrong, trying to figure out where everything runs to, and it's really time to update the equipment in there. So again, that also includes replacement of an 800 megahertz radio for police as well, and really just getting everything in that room cleaned up and tracing the wires throughout the department. So we got a good handle on what's happening there. The third new project is for the boat motor and trailer for emergency services. It's kind of a joint use. The equipment could be deployed to the river for emergency services that require response into the water, as well as to be used for all aspects of goose management. You may not know, but for the goose management, we've been using, at least from the PD, just the officer's own personal equipment to make that happen. And it's time that we consider looking to purchase some city equipment rather than staff having to use their own equipment at this point. So that quote, includes a new 14-foot aluminum boat, 6 horsepower motor, as well as a trailer and a couple of life jackets as well. Any questions before I keep going here? Good. Replacement of conductive electrical weapons. That's an annual project. It seems every year we have a couple that fail. Again, just planning for the future, we try to replace a couple every year. I can say that we've had 2 or 3 that have failed this fiscal year or within the last 12 months. Just staying on schedule to get those replaced. They are electronics, and we all know how that goes. They go bad over time. So, and lastly, the physical fitness equipment. Chief Edmonds already talked on that. It's a joint project between police and fire. All I would add on to that is that the PD implemented in the union contracts the physical fitness program testing for PD staff this year. We just held our first annual, which was pretty exciting. And I've seen more use of that fitness room in the last couple of years than I've seen in my 20 years with the city. So it's exciting to see some of the equipment getting replaced up there. And if we can continue to do that, for a few more years to get the equipment up to a little bit more today's standards. Some of it's getting rather old, and it's definitely some safer things out there for our staff to be using.
Thanks, Eric.
Welcome.
Any questions for Eric?
What year did Telerad say that radio in the radio room is from?
We believe it's from the 80s.
Still have a mullet.
Which is pretty scary because that's transmitting all of the emergency calls throughout the station. Now, we do have some backup radios that we could replace, so it's not as bad as it sounds. However, we need to update to a radio that meets today's standards and can accommodate all the channels that we need on that radio. So, yeah, it's quite an antique. It probably needs to head right to the Besser Museum when it leaves.
The stringing cans.
Yeah.
One step from.
Shannon, do you want to go next?
Nothing really new at the marina this year. We had a solid master plan for 6 years. I didn't mess with it too badly. Just because we did ask for some pretty large capital projects here. Probably the only one of note is we did get our grant and aid request to replace the bathrooms and the fuel line. So those will be our top priorities this year, along with just trying to make some infrastructure improvements. And next year, probably going to be some new things just because we have some new people in charge.
That's a good segue. I don't know if everyone's met Kevin Fisher. He's our new harbor master / parks coordinator. So this is his first CIP. So we're taking it easy on him.
Very grateful. Scare him away yet.
I got thrown to the wolves. And then in building maintenance, one of the things that is only a new addition we have here this year is just trying to do some improvements to the security systems and fire systems within the city. First ask on getting with some of the people that do this. It's going to be hopefully not as expensive as we originally thought. But still need to put some money into making certain that if there's a fire, that the fire alarms go off and somebody actually gets called. Other than that, there's not a whole lot new in buildings, just still trying to make improvements. My dad always said you should sell it 25 years. We can't quite do that with public safety, so now we got to fix.
Just a note about the City Hall windows. You'll see that it's in there for a second year, but that's just a little bit of carryover in the cost because we expect those to be ordered and completed, if all goes well, this fiscal year. These windows.
Large grant, donation for that.
Yes, a large donation for that. Yep.
There's some money that's going towards that. We're hoping we'll do the historical aspect of those windows as opposed to the industrial ones we have now.
Questions for Shannon? Right. Take it away.
All right.
Take it away.
I'm going to start off with the real exciting stuff, IT. Not much new here. It's a lot. IT, we don't have necessarily the budget to be proactive. It's more reactive in a lot of cases. Plan for some things here and there. One of the big things that it's always been in the CIP for probably 3 or 4 years, but we were notified this year that we really don't have much of a choice. I know Logan's going to fight it all he can, but the SNA is going to the cloud. If we want to do any more updates to our stuff, to our financial software, I think we have 14 modules. They all need to go to the cloud at the same time. This started with trying to do something with some billing software for our utility. And it went from there, and it's around $150,000. So it's actually a little more than that because there's some money in the water and sewer funds to cover some of this too. So, because it's the billing software for the utility. So that is in there. I put it in there, and it's going to take a lot to get us to take it out, because I think it needs to stay, because they're kind of forcing our hand. The one project that's highlighted, new server, I think because I clicked the box and said new instead of an existing project, because it's a project every year. It's just a new server. And I think Logan and I talked, we might increase that number. Would 15 cover that as opposed to the 12?
15 to 18.
15 to 18. I guess maybe we should get that number up to 18. We can modify that. To get us a new server. Everything's running good, but we don't want to be in the middle of the year and not have any money to buy a server either. So it's been a while since we've done any replacement on a server. So it's, yeah, just a matter of time. One of the other things that doesn't show up in the computers and technology, it shows up in the sewer and the water, is some money for some GIS work. And the state is going to make us start showing our assets to the public in a GIS format on the website. People can go in, check if they have a lead copper service, if they have, what size the main is, how old the main is. That's all got to be on the public side now. And in order to do that, we have to have somebody that can kind of maintain that for us. We've tried for years to kind of maintain our own GIS, and it always goes by the wayside. So this is something that I got priced out from a couple of different people, and for about $5,000 a year, they can just do it for us, maintain everything, have a public facing portion of it that people can log into and see. It's the way of the future, and it has to happen. We're being required by the state. So it's just something we have to do. So that's kind of it in IT, other than just your systematic replacements. There's looking at some laptops this coming year for more of our mobile group, building department, several department heads, looking at some compact, decent laptops to use. Nothing run of the mill, nothing you can just buy at Walmart, something that's going to last for us and have some, possibly even have a cellular connection, so that you don't have to hotspot into a phone or hotspot into something else to get connection. So that's kind of it on that end. There's no. If there's no questions, I'll move on to.
Yeah, there's room over there. You got the worst seat in the house, right?
And since cemetery is basically just equipment and vehicles, I'll include cemetery in this too, because they're the same page. The biggest thing in both of these departments is that we've recently jumped over to, most of you know, for leasing for our standard vehicles, standard everyday vehicles at City Hall and at different places, but we're also looking at equipment leases. And we found we can really get a good deal with the leases. We can, lease them for a year, basically turn them in, get a brand new vehicle the following year, basically do one oil change on them. And for a lot less money and a lot less maintenance. So we're going to be leasing some cemetery equipment, as well as some public works equipment, looking at skid steers and all the implements that go on them, that's such a thing. There's a cemetery utility vehicle in there that we're looking at possibly purchasing, and that is a little bit different. That's going to be able to have many more implements on it and do different things at the cemetery, and it'll stay at the cemetery. It won't be like a DPW equipment. So that's something we're still investigating, but the money is in there to make that purchase. And that's it on the vehicles. Unless somebody has a question. cemetery itself, there's really nothing new. It's pretty much things that have either been in there or are in there every year. Cemetery, the road resurfacing, irrigation system has needed work for quite some time. I think we're going to try and tackle that here. It's split over 4 years, 4 fiscal years. We'll see what comes of that, but that's something that really needs work. The mausoleum repairs have been kicked down the road quite a few times, but it's quite an undertaking. So, that's out a couple more years. That kind of wraps up cemetery.
We are keeping our fingers crossed that we're going to get some funding or return investments this year from the community foundation of our perpetual lot care fund. So any investment returns we can use for these types of projects. We're getting close. We're getting close.
The lighting capital outlay, there's nothing that's really new in there, except that the number 32, the citywide lighting consistency, that was an efficiency thing for a while, like moving to LED lights and different kind of fixtures. We've kind of changed that up a little bit after some conversations this past year with a few council members. We're trying to get out of this habit. It was more of a maintenance thing. If the light was out, Thunder Bay Electric went in and they replaced the light, and that was it. Now we're looking at lights that are white, lights that are pink, lights that are purple, lights that are not as bright as the other ones, yellowed lights versus bright white lights. So part of this money now, this has kind of changed the face of this project, has changed a little bit to kind of look at doing some large replacements in areas, go down Ford Avenue, go down Second Avenue, do, the downtown, replace, the lights themselves on every single one. So they're all white. This is something that we never had direction to do. This wasn't something that, we told Thunder Bay Electric to watch out for. It was just, replace the light. That was it. But since all this technology has changed now, you're getting into all these different color lights and fixtures and whatever. So they've actually come full circle with a lot of this, and we have now lights that are switchable. We buy these lights and they're switchable for the different types of light as well as the color of light, which is nice. So we're looking at, doing one type of color and lumens and such for the pedestrian lights all around, and then a different for all the overhead lights. And then in areas that have high traffic and high, are busy, like the downtown, would be even a higher wattage, not higher wattage, but higher lumen light. So we've got 3 different types that we're looking at installing and kind of standardizing to some of that stuff. So
Just so you don't have to climb the pole to flip the switch to change it from warm white to cool white.
yeah. Yeah. That's what we're hoping to get all that straight before we send them up send them up to replace them in the first place. So.
On the lighting,
Yeah.
question, on the downtown wiring, it shows 3 years of funding. It says 4-year plan. Does that include this year?
This year. There's money in this year's budget.
So there's 25 for this year.
Yeah. Yeah. When we asked Thunder Bay Electric how much, they said around 100,000 to do the whole downtown. So yeah, that 25,000 is in this year's also. All right. Moving on to parks, which I will gladly hand over to Kevin next year. But for this year, I'll just say that, all these projects have been in and hanging out for quite a while. The Mishkewas beach improvements, most of that is volleyball courts, which did not make the budget last year at the very end. So it kind of has to go this year because we have a grant associated with it, and the grant has to be completed this year. So that has to say. And the Duck Island Park improvements is the pavilion and restrooms. So that is going to happen. That's actually close to being out for bid, and then we'll finish up portions of it the next fiscal year. The only real new thing, you'll see it appear in several other areas too, is the green stormwater infrastructure improvements. And we partnered with Huron Pines. I think some of you may have participated in it. They had a charrette of sorts, I guess, at the library. They talked about the different solutions for draining stormwater off the streets and draining it through filter products to get it before it goes into the storm system, before it goes back into the river. It's a pretty important thing right now. There's a lot of people interested in it, and there's a lot of new products that go with it. And so there was 7 or 8 projects that came of it that were suggested. And so what we did is we just budgeted them along throughout the CIP in different locations, but there's parking lots. One is the center alley downtown. And there's some, like for instance, at some of the parks like Bayview would be like growing some natural grasses in an area, in a low area that we can't mow anyway. We would kind of do those kinds of things. So those are listed on several of the CIP sheets, the main sheets. So all the projects are listed on there to give you a better idea. Actually, she's got it up right now. But those are throughout. So
Right. And
a new project throughout the CIP in a few locations.
Yeah, and if I may, we do have a couple, or a grant application out on a couple of those projects right now. So you could see those move up in priority if they're funded. And there would be a small match to that grant we applied for.
Have it budgeted in the right sequence.
Regarding the Bayview Park upgrades, are there Kiwanis going to be involved with that, or is this now being all taken over by the city?
We hope they're involved.
That's to be determined. That's something Kevin will be reaching out to them to see what their involvement might be.
On the sports plex, Bayview Sportsplex, which are, I think the basketball, tennis court, obviously do need work.
Yeah.
It just says 150,000 other outside sources. What is that?
Well, there's a group that approached us that is, I know he's kind of started a little bit of his outside fundraising efforts. I don't want to reveal too much, but it's a group that helped us with another project that they're interested in doing a project here that's going to get us correct size basketball courts, revamped tennis courts, and pickleball courts. And the biggest problem, what I'm told at Bayview right now, is that we basically paved over or surfaced concrete, and the concrete just does not play well with tennis. People have just dealt with it these many years, but to be an ideal tennis court, it should be paved, should be an asphalt surface. And then along with that, pickleball would be the same. So that's what this project would involve, tearing up all the concrete that's there.
Oh, so removing it. Because it is asphalt over concrete now?
I believe there's a small
and they just
surface on it.
And
it reflects like pavement does. It reflects the joints in the concrete. So.
Is it going to be an expansion or it's just redo what's there?
Redo what's there.
It's a bit of an
little bit of an expansion. Yeah.
But it would stay within a reasonable footprint.
Stay within basically that same footprint. Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Culligan Plaza is where in this? Because it's not under parks.
No,
it's because it's already funded. Didn't we put it in here, didn't we?
Well, what we're
under
getting
DDA.
You'll be getting a memo to council to request to get it into the budget, because at the budget time last year, we didn't want to put it in because it would have upended everything so much.
Okay.
But we did get the grant this fiscal year, so what you're going to see is a budget amendment, or we'll do it at budget time.
Right.
A budget amendment to add all that money in.
And we didn't put it in here because it's funded. Yeah.
I'd just like to see it.
Mark, we like to take them out.
All right. If that's it for parks, we'll move on to public works, where there's nothing new. But the salt storage facility is something we definitely need. We thought that there was a grant opportunity through MDOT, which didn't really pan out. So we moved it out of this past year. It didn't get budgeted. So we're hoping to do it over 2 fiscal years. Not sure, but we got to get it in there. We got to get the money obligated so we can, apply for a grant or something if we can through MDOT. We'll see. And everything else that is in there has been in there in the past. Site improvements, paving. We have to, all the doors that are original and all the cold storage, all those need to get systematically replaced here. That's just time. So. All right.
Can I ask a question? We go under public works. We had gotten a grant from the state several years ago to start recycling, and having bins and stuff. Is that still?
It's still a thing, and we're going to finalize it here this spring, get our final payout for it. We have all of the bins, and we just haven't, the capacity isn't there to handle what we might bring in, so
Yeah.
as you all well know.
We've had an internal discussion, and that's probably something I forgot to tell you. But just to order all of them, and that was actually Steve's idea, so we can get the grant closed out. And then when we have capacity at the new facility, which we can still talk about, but I think until we get to the new facility, I'm not sure if it makes sense to implement that. Maybe we can phase it in somehow, though.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. If there are no questions, I will move on to very exciting local and major streets.
Can I ask a question which may have already, I don't know if you covered it already, Shannon, or Harbor Master. Have you done Marina yet?
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
I had a question then regarding the funding. It says Marina Fund, and there's a lot of expenditures coming up fairly quickly, and all certainly needed. But where does that funding, Marina Fund, how is that funded? Is that just out of the general fund?
The marina is funded through slip sales and other revenue sources, dock fees, things like that, are the launch permits, things like that. We also, when we do capital projects, we typically try to grant fund it. Right now we're working with grant and aid through waterways. And then we do usually just for the capital portion of it, do have to ask the general fund to help us pay for some of the capital expenses.
Money is in the Marina Fund. Does anybody know?
Right now,
Don't know.
Kevin, what did we have on the revenue last year? Do you remember?
No pressure.
I want to say like almost 300,000 roughly
Right.
in revenue.
Somewhere in there.
200, and I think 100,000 of that was from general fund.
And we've had some grant projects too.
We
that
got
had to match.
we've got $250,000 in grants that came in, or no, $400,000 in grants that we received from waterways between the docks, the bathrooms, and miscellaneous stuff like that, that we are doing with that.
Yep.
I think ultimately what we want to look at it being self-sufficient with, possibly the general funds, supporting us for the match funds for grants, that capital end of it. But everything else, it's come a long way from where it was before to being a lot more, closer to being self-sufficient.
Are we doing better in slip rentals than what we were there for?
Last year, I was basically full for seasonal slip.
Oh, good.
And this year we have a waiting list of 15? What, 12? 12 waiting lists that we have to wait until the end of the month to see who's coming back.
Winter storage fees are.
Winter storage fees was the other one.
It's like more boats and.
Right. Yeah, winter storage fees were up probably $40,000 from where we were anticipating when we went into it.
What we were kind of thinking when we got into this, and I don't think we had a choice but to take it over because it was, it needed some love. But we thought within 5 years we could be sustainable out there. And I think we're well on our way to that, but it just takes time to get everything upgraded.
Like I know last year, the revenue that I had coming in and the revenue that we did receive was it paid for the operations portion of it. We were just asking for money from general fund to help fund grants,
So major project.
major projects. And I'm talking, when I'm saying funding grants, we're talking $150,000, $200,000 matches. That's what we were asking for.
Now, as per typical in both the local and major street, a lot of these are the maintenance projects that we normally have in here. Other projects that have been just graduated up throughout the years. The two new ones you'll see are the green stormwater improvements. Trying to remember which ones are which.
Local is
The
the
local
center
is
alley.
The center alley, yeah, because cemeteries, alleys are paid for out of local streets, so the paving and such and that we do in them, so that local street one that'd be the center alley improvements. We're looking at doing some plantings along where all the parking blocks are. So to divide the alley from the parking, it would be some plantings instead of the parking blocks, which are, I'm an engineer, so they look fine to me. Everybody else wants plants in there. Whatever.
Yes, even I can't figure it out, just so long as I get them in a straight line when we set them, we don't get it.
Again, Second Avenue, is that a major street?
Yes.
Because I know there's lots of projects and they all, riding my bike around and walking, I see them all.
Stop riding your bike.
And,
You worked here.
I worked. But I know Second Avenue, especially I think from about Blair Street for a few blocks heading into downtown is really beginning to crumble, especially on the lane heading into town.
It's on the radar. I'm looking at it, but I have to see where Long Rapids Road and Wessel end up.
I didn't even know there could be one of those thin overcoat or
No.
not. No, okay. But it is really getting bad.
Yeah, we're gonna spend the money this year on the other end of Second Avenue.
Yeah.
The good news, the speeding complaints went down.
Yeah.
I had a bike.
Fun and stuff on the street.
Right on third Bible.
Ticket revenue.
Boxes and ands.
Well,
It all go balance.
first is my
Rolls up.
Oh, yeah.
Right on.
Boxes and tree boxes, is that what it was?
Yeah, so the major street one for the green stormwater is tree boxes and little bump outs with, water loving plants in them, this type of thing. That will, they act to clean that root system and stuff, acts to clean the water. And the tree boxes are kind of interesting because they're set up right by a catch basin, and the catch basin drains the water into that root system, and as it goes through, it drains into the soils. And I don't know if those have inverts in them, or they just go down in the soil after
They actually go into that box, they filter through, and then whatever is above the tree, they sit about this far above the ground. That water will go right direct in, but otherwise the tree can absorb that water that's coming off those street systems.
And there's a whole big report that we can
Oh, yeah.
send on a study if anyone's interested.
The link's on the website, isn't it?
Is it?
We did.
Okay. Send out some follow-up.
Now we can.
All right.
See, scour countermeasure.
Scour countermeasures?
Yeah.
That would be on the Second Avenue Bridge, and that's for, as the water goes through the bridge, it scours out the sand against the abutments, and it'll eventually erode the abutments then. So we have to do something about that. So that involves underwater concrete of sorts and all kinds of fun things. So,
And
We
so the,
take grout and we stack it up against it. And
yeah, so the past 2 to 3 years, you've really ramped up the inspections and work on the bridges.
kind of got them back on the radar a little bit.
Right.
Yep. All right. So then we move on to sewer and water, everybody's favorite. Yeah. Not a whole lot new as far as on the collection side of sewer. Like I said before, there was the utility mapping for GIS is in there. And then the water utility meter system is our meter read system that, remember, we put all new meters in every house everywhere. That system is still in place, basically like it was the day it went in. There have been hardly any upgrades to the system, and we need to get up to date. There are some things that we can't do that we should be able to do. This was an uh-oh that I realized that I didn't know was coming down the lane. So we got some prices on it. We're also looking at these prices are right from census, right from the company that does the work right now. But we have learned that there are other companies out there that will do this same thing and take over the system. And so we're looking at getting prices from them. We actually have a meeting in a week or so, 2 weeks, with another group that will be able to possibly provide these same services. So that was kind of a big surprise. We weren't real happy when all that went down because you're paying support, and apparently that's not the support we were paying for. They only said that they would fix things if things were broken. It didn't count as, the amount of money we were paying wasn't for upgrade of the software, systematic upgrade. So that's still up for debate too. We're having some discussions. So we'll see how that all goes. But ultimately something needs to be done anyway. So that's what that money is for. Recycling plant, there's, quite a few new things that I'll defer a little bit to Shannon on some of these, but if anybody has any questions on them, there are things that some of these have been in here before and now they're back. So if anybody has any questions on anything in the water recycling plant itself.
One for the pump replacement.
Pump replacement repair,
Yeah.
number
I was
155.
just curious, it shows over several years. Let me, what number? I gotta punch the number in here now.
155.
So that's 169 on my computer. It shows pretty much the same amount. Now, how do you replace, are these 100,000, are those each time are a different meter or?
what they are is there are several different pumps that run the plant. We move water up and down in the plant quite regularly. The pumps are becoming aged, and then you can imagine they're not in the best situation or environment. So at that point in time, this is pretty much systematic replacement of these pumps. This year, we're replacing pumps from 1960. So, they're just old pumps that are in there. They've never been upgraded. So we're in the process of working through those right now, getting everything kind of updated. We take the most critical ones first and we kind of work from there. This year, it's a series of 3 that we're working on. Next year, there's a large pump that'll be probably the whole $100,000 to replace it. The next year, I don't know which ones we're looking at, but there's so many pumps in there that we know it's just going to be an annual expense to deal with.
Because when I read this, it says project description, repair or replacement of VFD pump. Makes it sound like there's one pump, but then we're spending almost $100,000 for the next 6 years. First year is 50. So it isn't one pump.
Yeah, no, you know my spelling, Greg. You're just lucky it said pump.
Okay. Because I figured the VFD maybe was one specific type of
You
pump.
can put an S.
And I'm just curious how,
Yeah.
when you replace a pump over 6 years.
Yeah, no, it was, I didn't catch that. I didn't have the S on there. I apologize.
Add S. All right.
All right. Anything else on the plant?
Under sewer collection, there's the water utility meter AMI system, and it's also under water distribution.
One more time.
Which one?
Water utility meter, the AMI system.
Yes, those are split between those two funds because the same meter that puts the distribution water or counts the water coming into your house is the same meter. We use that number in order to pay your sewer bill also.
Yeah, we use the term water bill and, whatever, but it's a water and sewer bill, and it's a water and sewer, meter system. Although it doesn't meter the water or the sewer, it accounts for it. So.
I got, regarding its number, it's the methane engine replace. It says it is basically well past life expectancy, it no longer serving a purpose. That makes it sound like it isn't functioning.
The methane collection system on it is no longer serving a purpose. Before, we used to collect the methane with that motor, and the methane that we collected in the building was used to run that motor. It was a dual power. So we're going to get rid of that portion of it and just put in a regular, I believe it's an electric motor.
Are you still using the methane right now?
No.
Then why do we wait until 28, 29 to replace it if it isn't working? And you need an electric motor, why aren't we getting that?
It's working because it's dual powered. So right now that is doing the job just with electric, but there's no sense of when we update it for it to be dual powered any longer.
I guess I look at the same thing on the next one, service water piping within the water recycling plant, that it's failing, it's in very poor condition. Putting it out 6 years.
Again, these are things I'm working with the operators on. It's failing, but it's still working. You may see it next year become a top priority because it's failed. But the things that are in front of it are a higher priority because they are in worse shape.
I guess if they come and tell you it's failed, it's now crisis
No, it's a crisis.
at that point.
But I mean, what you're looking at in front of it, Greg, are bigger crises in the turnpike.
In waiting.
They're like things that if they fail, we don't treat. So that's what we kind of went through, and we've made a cascade, and that's kind of what the CIP is for, is to make a cascade of which projects do we absolutely need to get done. And those are the ones that we feel absolutely need to get done sooner rather than later.
One of those conversations we have with them, they say, well, everything's failing, it's horrible, and it needs to get replaced. And we say, well, does it have to be done right now?
Yeah.
Well, no, this needs to be done right now. Okay.
I mean,
Methane gas meter says you got moisture inside, so it ruined the circuit. That is still functioning though?
It's functioning, we're getting through.
Because again, that's out 6 years.
It is, but I mean, the things that you're seeing in front of it, Greg, are either not working, they're put together with binder twine and Band-Aids, or we are at the point where if it fails, then we don't treat. So those are the things that became a bigger priority, things that we can work around, things that we can push out, service water that unless it absolutely fails today, then we're in trouble. Then those were pushed out further because we don't have $1 million to do all those projects today.
And we all know that the CIP is a working document.
Well, yeah.
Things can be looked up and
I
looked up
understand that.
depending on.
I guess I'm just reading the description and the justification. Makes it sound pretty dire, and in 6 years, it sounds like it could fall apart any day.
well, it could.
But yeah,
I mean, ideally, yeah, we would like to replace all of these, but the money we have is the money we have. Did you have a question? Okay. Okay.
All right. Move on to water distribution. These are projects you've seen before, seen all along coming through. As Logan pointed out, the water utility meter AMI system, the other half of that project is in the water distribution portion. The other part of that, and they have, because this is 50 grand. I guess I didn't put it in. Sewer collection.
Where are you?
The number 180, the water utility billing system, cloud is BSNA cloud software, and I have 25,000 in there. So I guess I need to put the other 25,000 in the sewer collection. I didn't.
Oh, okay.
Needs to go in.
You said add the other 25?
Yep, the other 25 would come out of sewer collection. Because that's where that whole BSNA project started, was we wanted to start. We contract now with Alpena Power to collect all of our data for our billing, and we pay them to send the bills, or not send the bills out, but collect the bills and generate the bills. And it's on their system, and there's a DAFRON software involved, and there's all kinds of things that we have to kind of keep up with on their end, and we don't even house the data. And we've been trying to do this for quite a few years, get it off of their, stop paying them rent, stop paying their people, and put it on our servers, and it just makes more sense.
Then it would interact with BSNA that we already have.
Yeah.
Right, in order to interact, to do that, we could bring it onto our software, and then it interacts with BSNA. People can pay their bills online, they can log in and see their usages and all kinds of things that would all play nice together, but we need to go to the cloud. So.
Yeah, I may have asked this before, but so there's a service charge, obviously, each year. So how does that equate to what is paid out as far as for the service, the billing service? Do you recall?
Yeah.
I know that goes through the contract, but.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Okay. Just curious. I probably should have asked before this meeting, but just thought of it.
All right, so that kind of is it for water distribution. And on the production end.
just a question.
Yeah.
Under downtown first, second park and water, and I think it's also under the sewer fund, that same thing of redoing
198.
infrastructure reconstruction on those streets.
Yeah.
The explanation, you got 1.4 million in year 6, 2930. Yeah, but it says 1 year, 1, 2, 3, 4. Has this been work that's already been done? Or how does that equate of going over 4 years? It's all in 1 year.
When I do these, Greg, a lot of times we know that we're going to split them across multiple years, but when you're looking at year 6, we know those projects are coming down the pike. We like to let you know that they're in there. So then that's when you start seeing me put those years down there. We'll probably split it across 4 years when we get it up to year 1. So
in 6 years, then it will probably be split up.
Correct.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Year 1 is basically where it's starting now, and then we don't put years 7, 8, 9, 10. So.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
I just a little confused by it.
Yeah, but we don't want to put it out there as, $250,000, and then when it comes up again, then we're putting more and more in each year.
Yeah, and it doesn't quite go to long range because it's before then.
Yeah,
right.
Or else we would put it in long range. Yeah.
So then we move on to water production, and not a lot going on next fiscal year because we're finally replacing the clear wells. Been an ongoing project, and it is designed, and it went out for bid this Monday. Contractors can visit the site and collect all their data that they need on Friday. And the bids are due March 13th, I think, March 11th, somewhere in there. We'll find out what the damage is and move on from there. But that's going to be a big project. That'll be all summer into next spring, most likely. And Shannon got taking care of some of the work out there already. Took down some of the trees that needed to come out. That whole tennis court area has to go at this point. That was always set up for expansion of the water plant, and so that's going to go, and fence will go up all along there, and that's where the nuclear wells will go. So that's our main project. The new project is also in there, the intake line for the city. We, as you all know, we had some issues with that this winter. Had it cleaned out, got somebody to kind of tell us what's going on and what we might need to do in the future. So there needs to be some additional cleaning in that. And we just learned of a possible grant opportunity to do some repairs. So we'll see on that. We're waiting from people to hear on that. But that's going to be a number one priority. So we might have contractors crawling all over the water plant this summer. So. Then, yeah, I guess the only other new one was the replacement of the chloride day tanks. That's 3 years, 4 years out, so. That's all I have there, unless anybody has any questions.
I was reading about the chloride tanks.
Oh.
They're 24 years old and the lifespan on them is 10 to 20.
What we're finding is that these are just some of the things that have been happening in the plants for a while. We need to start systematically doing some of these things, and we should have been before. And it needs to happen, and they are big ticket items. And we've got to roll accordingly with our rates coming up here. We'll see what happens, but how it all shakes out. But yeah.
I think anyone has on long range that they would like to speak to?
One question about, started quite a while ago when I was city manager. I think we first started, you have a long range plan about going from taking the water from Lake Huron to wells, and that's a long range project. And you talked about a test well, which we talked about numerous times. And I'm just wondering, should the test well, which you list at $100,000, should that be done sometime here within the foreseeable future? First, to see if it's even feasible for us to convert over or to use it as a supplemental on there, to know if we even have anything, is to put it on less than a long range, to spend the money to do the test well and see where we stand. Not at the time when there's, again, crisis thing. At least we know.
Well,
and we're in a position then, okay, if we need to go that way, we know it can be done, it's feasible, or no, it isn't. At least not, because you were looking at around the current water plant, correct?
Yeah.
So if that doesn't work, then we know we got to maintain that intake line at all costs. So
yeah.
I'm just wondering if it would make sense to at least put it on that radar on a shorter term, just find out the feasibility if we.
It's certainly a consideration, but one of the things that we're going to be doing here with intake is putting out an RFP. So basically somebody to come in and tell us what we need to do, what their suggestions are with the existing intake. And those are some of the things that we could talk with them about. Once we get them on board, we could talk about some of those things and see what their thoughts are. on some of these things.
So it could be added in.
Could be.
Or, brought into the 6-year.
That just
Yeah.
seems to make some sense in being prudent, and not trying to deal with it as the problem. You have a problem that's just getting worse and worse, and you may not have a choice to see if that works.
Yep, it's something we can certainly review, and it may show its ugly face in the CIP next year on the main part of it. Let's see.
All right, any other questions?
One thing that was discussed during the rec plan that I don't see in the CIP is that stretch of Bagley for the bypass. I don't know where it would fall. Right? I know it's technically not city property.
Right.
Right. I would hesitate to even put it in the CIP.
Right.
It would be something that we would add to the budget, I think, whenever we can get an agreement together or get everybody on the same page. Because we wouldn't do it without a grant, I don't think. And so we would look for the grant opportunity associated with that, because we're talking wetlands for most of that run.
Mm-hmm. And the road commission has to be
They have to be.
agreeable.
Yeah.
And so putting it into our CIP before we've had those discussions and agreement. Yeah.
But isn't it also easier to get the grant if it's in the CIP?
Eventually. As long as we can.
But it's in the rec plan, so that gives us a little bit of leverage there.
For the DNR grants.
That's the thing is it's hard to put something in our CIP that's in somebody else's right away.
Yeah.
It's
Because they're going to have to be the fiduciary probably for whatever we do.
if we do a grant, they're going to have to be the fiduciary. Exactly. So there's a whole lot of talking that needs to happen first. So.
Well, hopefully they be agreeable.
Yep. I think a lot of people want it though.
Yeah,
I agree.
It wouldn't be this fiscal year anyway, so it could show up in next year's CIP quite easily,
I guess, looking back on history, when we did the trailhead at the end of Woodward, we had an agreement with the county to they own the land, if I remember right.
Yeah.
We did that, so we were still their fiduciary on everything on that. If I remember right, it was not the county. What they did was lease for like $1 a year or something.
This is right away though.
Yeah, but still, but there could be an agreement that would allow us, if we wanted to proceed, to be the fiduciary within it. It's just
possible
agreement.
I guess it would depend on who the grant would be through too. Because if it has anything to do with transportation, it would have to be the road commission.
Questions? So I'm going to turn it over to you.
She's going to turn it over. The chairman of this planning commission, being me, would entertain a motion from my fellow commissioners to approve or deny the CIP as presented with a possible couple of amendments that have been discussed and noted by our city manager.
I'll make the motion to approve the CIP with the amendments.
Second. All right. We have a motion on the floor to approve the CIP as amended. And Montiel, would you please take the roll? I'm sorry, Montiel. Kathleen?
Bobo's,
Yes.
Gilmore,
Yes.
Moses,
Yes.
Sundin,
Yes.
Kemp.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now, city council, I need a motion to approve or deny the CIP as printed with the exception of the changes we noted.
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion?
No, ma'am.
Roll call.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Yes.
and Mayor Pro Tem Nowak.
Yes.
Motion carried.
And city council adjourned.
I move we adjourn.
Planning Commission, you stand adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Did your notes on them from the first round